I never thought I'd be the guy who catches his wife cheating, especially not in some stupid, predictable way. Carol and I had been together for about 5 years, married for 3. At first, everything seemed fine: good jobs, a house, a dog, typical suburban life. But over the past few months, I started noticing little things. She was more distant, secretive about her phone, and sometimes she'd get this weird look when she thought I wasn't paying attention. She'd brush off my questions with a sharp attitude, and her excuses about working late or needing me time started sounding more like bullshit every day. It's funny because I guess I was in denial. I kept convincing myself that maybe I was just overthinking it. But deep down, I knew something was off. Then, one afternoon, I decided to surprise her, just show up at her therapist's office, maybe catch her off guard. I'd been suspicious for a while, and I figured if I saw her with him or anyone else, I'd finally get some clarity. So I got there early, parked a block away, and waited. I wasn't even trying to listen in or be sneaky, just wanted to see her walk in. But what I saw was like a punch in the gut. Carol was in the waiting room, sitting unusually close to a guy I'd never seen before. She was laughing at something he said, leaning in a little more than she should. Then she reached out and touched his hand like a flirt, like they knew each other. My stomach dropped. I thought maybe I was imagining things, so I watched a little longer. She was all over him, whispering, her hand resting on his knee at one point. My first instinct was to go in and confront her right then, but I froze. I didn't want to make a scene or embarrass myself. Instead, I backed away slowly and left without her noticing. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying what I saw, trying to convince myself it wasn't true. But the evidence was clear: she was cheating on me. And the worst part, she lied so effortlessly when I finally confronted her later that night. She said it was just role-playing exercises during her sessions, that the therapist was helping her work through her issues, not cheating on me. The receptionist confirmed she'd been having private meetings with him weekly, which she'd been hiding from me. Honestly, I felt numb, shocked and furious at the same time. I didn't know whether to scream or cry. Part of me wanted to believe her story, that it was some twisted therapy thing, but I knew better. I knew I'd been played. I'd trusted her, loved her, built a life with her, only to find out she'd been lying to my face for months. The betrayal hit hard. It's like my world crumbled in that moment, and all I could do was sit there, staring at her, trying to process how she'd managed to lie so convincingly, how she'd betrayed me so completely. I thought I knew her, thought I knew our marriage, but now I wasn't so sure anymore. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, and I definitely couldn't stop thinking about how she could lie to my face so effortlessly. Carol acted like nothing was wrong at first, like I was overreacting. She threw her usual bitchy attitude at me, calling me paranoid or insecure. Said I was blowing things out of proportion, that I was imagining things because I didn't want to face the truth. She swore up and down that the therapist was just a friend, that they'd been working on some role-playing exercises to help her open up, and that I was crazy to think anything else. But I knew better. The way she looked at him, the way she touched him, there was no way that was just some therapy session. It was a full-blown affair, probably going on for weeks. I was furious, hurt, and honestly humiliated. How could she do this? How could she lie so blatantly and expect me to just accept it? I kept thinking back to all those little signs I ignored: her secretive phone habits, the unexplained absences, her dismissive attitude when I asked about her sessions. All of it made sense now. She'd been cheating on me and lying about it the entire time. I decided I had to come up with a plan. I couldn't just confront her blindly. I needed proof, a way to turn the tables. So I started doing some digging. I installed an app on her phone, something discreet, just enough to see what she was up to. I also kept a close eye on her movements, watching her meet with him. Behind my back, I knew I was risking everything, but I couldn't stand feeling like a cuckold anymore. I wanted revenge, and I wanted to make her feel what I was feeling: betrayed, humiliated, and powerless. The first thing I did was confront her again, but this time with evidence. I invited her to a talk, telling her I was tired of her lies, that I was done being played. She rolled her eyes, called me paranoid, said I was overreacting. It was almost comical how dismissive she was, like she thought she could keep her affair secret forever. I pulled out my phone and showed her the footage I'd secretly recorded her in the waiting room, her touching that guy's arm, her whispering in that soft, intimate way she did when she thought no one was watching. Her face turned pale. She stammered, denied everything, said it was all misunderstanding, that I was crazy for jumping to conclusions. That's when I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, bitchy liar who thought she could get away with cheating and using her therapist as her secret lover. The anger in me boiled over. I was furious for being played like a fool, for being betrayed by the woman I loved, for the trust I'd given her that she so easily threw away. I told her I wanted her out of the house, that I wasn't going to be some cuckold forever, and she snapped. Started yelling, calling me all kinds of names, saying I was controlling, insecure, and that I'd ruin everything if I didn't get over it. But it was too late for that. I felt a cold resolve settling inside me. I knew I had to do something more, something lasting. I couldn't just let her walk all over me, pretending that her affair was just role-playing or some therapy game. I needed to make her understand that she'd crossed a line and I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. The betrayal was too deep. I had to think about what I wanted to do next, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without consequences. After that confrontation, everything felt different. The house was colder, the air thick with unspoken tension. Carol kept acting like everything was normal, except I knew better. She was still sneering, still trying to act like the innocent victim, but her eyes kept darting away, avoiding mine, like she knew I had her caught. I didn't want to just sit there and stew in my anger. I needed a plan. I couldn't keep living with her, not after what I'd seen and the lies she'd told. But I also didn't want to just throw her out without a reason, without some kind of final blow. That's when I started thinking about revenge. Not some petty, childish payback, but something that would shake her to her core, something she'd never forget. I knew she thought she was so clever, so untouchable because she'd been lying and sneaking around behind my back for months. So I decided to turn the tables, to give her a taste of what she'd done to me, but with an extra edge. I started planning how to make her realize what it felt like to be betrayed, to be lied to be humiliated. First, I gathered more evidence. I followed her when she left the house, recorded her meetings, checked her texts. I wanted everything, proof of her affair, proof of her lies. I also contacted a private investigator just to be sure I had everything documented, her secret meetings, the hotel receipts, the messages she'd been exchanging. I didn't want to leave anything to chance. I knew I would need solid proof when I finally made my move. But as I collected all this evidence, I also started thinking about what kind of revenge I wanted to exact. I didn't want to just kick her out or yell at her. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. So I decided I'd do something that would be public enough to ruin her reputation, but also private enough to leave her helpless. I registered a fake profile online, crafted a story about how her therapist was cheating with her, and started posting snippets of the evidence I had, without revealing my identity, but enough to make her realize I was onto her. It was a risky game, but I needed her to see that I wasn't going to be the silent cuckold anymore. I wanted her to understand that I knew everything, and that I was coming for her. Every step I took fueled my anger and my resolve. I kept thinking about how she'd lied to me, how she'd used her so-called therapy as a cover for her affair. The more I dug, the clearer it became that I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I was going to make her regret the day she ever decided to cheat. At night, I'd lie in bed and think about how I was going to confront her again, how I'd expose her to everyone she cared about, how I'd make her see that her little game was over. I wanted her to feel the same shock and humiliation I'd felt when I first discovered her cheating. It was like some twisted justice, and I was just getting started. But I knew I had to be patient, strategic, because once I unleashed everything, there would be no turning back. The day I finally decided to strike was like walking on a wire, every nerve on edge, waiting for the right moment. I'd spent weeks gathering all the pieces, her texts, her secret meetings, the evidence I'd planted online. I kept the private investigator's reports hidden, just in case I needed them quickly. I wasn't planning on just confronting her directly anymore. I wanted her to feel the weight of her lies crushing her from the inside out. So I sent that anonymous post, the one that had all the details about her affair, her therapist, and her double life. I made sure it was detailed enough to be undeniable but vague enough to keep my identity hidden. As soon as I clicked post, I felt a rush of adrenaline, like I just lit a fire under her ass. I watched her that night, waiting for her reaction, waiting for her to crack. And crack she did. The moment she saw the post, her face twisted in a mix of shock, anger, and outright panic. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for some explanation. She started yelling at me, saying I was crazy, that I was stalking her, that it wasn't true. She spun an elaborate web of lies, saying that I'd hacked her phone, that she was innocent, that I was just trying to ruin her. But I had the proof, and I wasn't going to let her deny it anymore. I pulled out the files I'd kept, showed her the messages, the receipts, the hotel confirmation emails. Her bitchy facade cracked. She started crying, but not because she was sorry, because she was. Cornered, her voice got higher, more defensive, trying to throw everything back at me. This is what you want, isn't it? You're just jealous, insecure, crazy. You always doubted me, and now you're trying to ruin everything because you're too weak to handle the truth. She kept insisting it was just sex, just role-playing, that it was all harmless. But I knew better. I knew the truth was her lying, manipulative ass had been screwing around with that therapist for months. I couldn't believe I'd let her get away with this for so long. I'd been 100% loyal, sacrificed my own happiness to build this life with her, and she'd just thrown it in my face like it was nothing. That's when it hit me. I had to do something that would hit her even harder. I decided I'd confront her in front of her friends, her family, maybe even her work colleagues if I could. The goal was to expose her, to make her see that I knew everything and that I wasn't going to be her fool anymore. She started begging, pleading, crying, trying to twist the situation, saying she loved me, that it was just a mistake, that she'd never do it again, but I wasn't buying it. I saw her for what she was, a selfish, manipulative bitch who thought she could cheat and lie her way out of everything. That's when I knew I had to take the next step. I couldn't just be the guy who got cheated on and did nothing. She needed to feel what it was like to lose everything because of her own actions. I was done being the good guy. The plan was set. I knew it wouldn't be easy, and I knew she'd fight tooth and nail, but I was ready. I had all the proof, all the evidence, and the resolve to make sure she paid for what she did. Because at the end of the day, a betrayal like this doesn't just disappear, it sticks with you. And I was determined to make her remember what she'd lost. The aftermath hit harder than I expected. After I laid everything out, showed her the proof, exposed her affair to her face, she completely lost it. I could see her trying to spin her usual lies, but her words cracked under the weight of all that evidence. She kept insisting it was just sex, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that the therapist was just helping her deal with her problems. Yeah, right. Like I was supposed to believe that bullshit. She looked at me with this nasty, bitchy sneer, trying to act like she was the victim. She threw a tantrum, calling me jealous, insecure, controlling, basically trying to make me look like the villain. But I wasn't falling for that anymore. I just stared at her, feeling a strange mix of anger and relief. Anger because she'd betrayed me so completely, and relief because I finally saw her for what she really was, fake, manipulative, and selfish. I told her she needed to leave. I told her I'd had enough of her lies, enough of her BS. I wanted her gone, and I wanted her to understand she'd lost me. That was the moment I realized I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to fix this marriage. Not after what she'd done. I'd given her chances, tried to be understanding, but she'd pushed me too far. The betrayal had shattered whatever trust was left, and I knew I couldn't come back from that. She threw herself onto the floor, crying, screaming, begging me to forgive her. She said she loved me, that she'd changed, that it was a mistake. But I wasn't buying it. I saw right through her tears. She was just trying to manipulate me again. I told her she was a dishonest, selfish bitch and that she needed to get out before I called the cops. I grabbed her by the arm, helped her pack her things, and watched her leave with that smug, bitchy look still plastered on her face. That night I sat alone in the dark, feeling this strange mix of emptiness and clarity. I kept thinking about how I'd trusted her, how I'd loved her, how I'd tried so hard to believe in us. And in a flash, it was all gone. I realized that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people are just too broken or selfish to fix. I finally understood that I deserved better than lies and betrayal, that I had to protect myself from her toxicity. Now I'm left with a lot of questions. Did I do the right thing? Will I ever be able to trust again? Honestly, I don't know, but what I do know is that I won't let someone cheat, lie, and manipulate me without consequences. It's not just about revenge, it's about reclaiming my peace and dignity. And maybe someday I'll find someone who actually values honesty and loyalty. But for now, I'm just trying to move on, trying to forget the betrayal and focus on myself. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that the truth always comes out and liars get what's coming to them. In the days that followed, I pushed through the mess she left behind. Her stuff was out of the house, her voice messages blocked, and I deleted every trace of her from my life. It wasn't easy, I won't pretend it was. There were moments I caught myself staring at my phone, wondering if she'd try to reach out, if she'd come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. But I knew better now. Trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. That betrayal had burned every bridge we had, and I wasn't about to rebuild it on lies. What really hit me was the realization that I'd been played, but that I'd also been stronger than I thought. The whole experience shook my worldview, made me question everything about love, loyalty, and the kind of person I want to be with. I learned that sometimes people you love can turn into your worst enemies and you have to protect yourself first. It's a brutal lesson, but one I needed to learn. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but I also understand that some betrayals are so deep they only reveal themselves when it's too late. I've become more cautious now, more guarded. I don't trust easily anymore, but I also refuse to let that turn me bitter. Instead, I focus on rebuilding my sense of self, on finding happiness in simpler things, my work, my friends, small moments of peace. As for Carol, I don't know where she is now. I don't really care. Honestly, I feel nothing but relief that I finally saw her for what she was, a selfish, manipulative woman who thought she could cheat and lie her way out of her mistakes. She's probably still pretending to be innocent somewhere, but I hope she remembers this lesson. Nobody gets away with betrayal forever. It always catches up with you in one way or another. So I'm here now, telling my story because I want anyone in a similar situation to know this. Trust your instincts, pay attention to the signs, and don't be afraid to walk away if you have to. Because in the end, your happiness and dignity are worth more than any lie, no matter how convincing she might be. I may be scarred, but I'm also stronger. And I know someday I'll find a relationship built on honesty, something real, something worth fighting for. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, learning from this hell of a betrayal, and never letting anyone manipulate me again.